Hey Chip, how are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great, doing great. I love the book.
Oh, thanks.
I'm a avid Batman reader. I read pretty much everything,
Hmm.
and I can tell you that. And Josh, you can get mad at me if you want. I can tell you that probably in the last year, this is the closest to old school Batman I've seen.
Well, I'll tell you, that's great, and that's totally what I was aiming for, and I'm kind of nervous about that because it is old school, and I'm very aware that some people probably won't like it because of that, but there you go.
Well, see, and don't get me wrong, I like the new stuff too. I love what Scott Snyder's doing with them. I love what Tony Daniel does with them. So I'm not complaining. I
Hmm.
I just get real excited when I see a book that mirrors the 30s and 40s, the way that he was, you know.
Right.
Um it very much, I tell everybody about, when I tell people about the book, I always tell them, think about, you know, you raid Bob Kane's attic, and lo and behold, there's a graphic novel that he wrote and illustrated, 70 years ago that somehow never made it to the light of day.
Mm.
That's kind of how I feel about the book. I mean, is
Wow.
that what you were aiming for?
I was aiming for the great Batman movie from the 30s that never got made.
Right.
That was the look and feel of it. That was really what I was aiming for. And like here's what it could have been. So that really was sort of like the art direction and then the inspiration for the story sort of came from living and working in New York City and talking to architects and seeing how they work and how they get things made and what stands in their way.
Now, what kind of research did you do? I mean, did you do research like a
Oh
lot?
yeah. I interviewed several architects at length, and also people who knew why the cranes collapsed, and getting a real clear explanation of how something like that could happen, which basically comes down to payola. But also physically why it happened, and that the crane was mounted onto the side of the building as opposed to being anchored to the street.
Sure.
Because if they anchored it to the street, you need a permit for that, and it's more money and all this kind of thing. So yeah, in that sense, I did my research that way, and I have some good friends who are architects who have built buildings in the city, and I said, so talk to me. What happens, and it was really quite amazing.
Interesting.
There's the one story sort of towards the end about wanting to use a certain light fixture, and which wasn't union approved because it wasn't made in America, and the architect said, well, I'm vetoing you, we're going to use it anyway, and then somehow over the weekend all the toilets in the building were broken.
Right.
That's a real story.
Right.
And that really happened, and it's like, holy shit, you don't screw around with these people. Batman works best when Gotham City is a mess or something horrible's going on, and that seemed, pretty horrible to me.
Right. Right. Now, I know sometimes you kind of get partnered up with artists, and then other times you can say, hey, I got this artist in mind. How did, my mind just went blank. Oh my gosh.
No, that's all right.
Give me the name. Give me the artist.
Dave Taylor.
Dave. Thank you. Thank you. How did that come about? Was that
that came about? I mean, I had a dream wish list, but it was all people that I knew would not be able to have time to do it. But they asked me, so I told them just to give them an idea of kind of like what I was looking for, and this was 3 years of his life working on this thing. So you not only have to find the right person artistically, but somebody who's willing to make that kind of commitment. And so he was suggested to me by Mark Chiarello, and I think I can't imagine anybody else doing it at this point. But it was very, very collaborative, and Dave took a lot of direction, and then every now and then he would not do what was indicated on the script, and inevitably whatever he decided made it better. And you just can't ask better than that. That was just amazing.
right? Right. Now, how do you? I know there's different ways of writing. What is your approach to the writing of a book? I mean, do you do the panel by panel? Do you do the dialogue, the whole thing mapped out, and then let them put it in panels?
I wrote it in a program called Quark, which is the layout program.
Uh-huh.
And there's any number of ways you can do it. I mean, I didn't know any better. I didn't know, quote, how to do it, so I kind of made it up as I went along. But to me, it made the most sense I laid out all the panels and then put the dialogue and sound effects in them. So it really was very, the word I use, it really was very consciously directed in terms of, this is a double page spread, this is what we're seeing, blah, blah, blah. And he really seemed to like that. Some people, I think, like Grant Morrison, like when he writes a script, it's more like a film script.
Right.
And the artist sort of has to figure out then how they're going to arrange that on the page, and some artists really like that. But this, to me, like it helped me to write it to visually see how it was going to pan out, because that's sort of what I do, so that's how I did it. And again, sometimes Dave would deviate, and when he did, he always had a really good reason for that. And
Okay. Now, I was looking here. Is this your first actual comic writing?
Technically, no. I wrote 2 8-page stories with Tony Millionaire for the Bizarro 1 and Bizarro 2
Okay.
collection. And then I did I think either 6 or 8-page story with Alex Ross for the Mythology book.
Yeah, right, okay.
And that, Alex really co-plotted that story.
Okay.
But in terms of doing like a long form, do a 100-page Batman graphic novel, in that sense, it's very much a first attempt for an overall, I would say epic, sweeping story.
Right.
And that was it was a real challenge, because I'm a fan and I know what's been done, and the question is, well, what am I going to be able to bring to this?
Sure.
And very quickly, it occurred to me that the design angle is what I'm going to bring to it, and mainly in terms of architecture. But there's design all over it, as there is in most comics. Cartoonists have to be designers, because they have to create the world on the page, and that takes design skill. And so we wanted also to make the story about, designing something for a city.
Right, right. Now,
I think we got time for one more question.
Okay. What is you being a big Batman fan?
Mm-hmm.
What was Batman Death by Design? Is that your Batman, or is that just the Batman that you chose to go with? And who is if you had one person to pick, who is your Batman artist of choice?
Oh, God. What a question. Honestly, I would love to, do another one of these. And if I did, it would be a completely different story. And I'm assuming it would be a completely different artist. And it would be, in its own way, like starting all over again.
Okay.
So it's not like I thought, well, this is my total definitive version of Batman. It's the version that works for this story. But I loved in the first couple of Batman stories, from Detective 27 through 31 or 32, which remain sort of my favorite. But I love a lot of his dialogue is what I call the sort of, quote, gentleman adventurer.
Yeah.
Well, we seem very agitated.
Right.
Blah, blah. As opposed to that whole snarly thing that they do in the movies, and that's its own thing. But this character is very much to the manner born. And so, he puts the costume on, but that whole scene, the confrontational scene in the cab of the crane, it's very, as when Batman makes his entrance, it's meant to be very sort of elegant and understated in that he doesn't really have to say much because the fact that he's even there, hello, is so dramatic, and Bart Lore is freaking out, and
right.
This roundabout way, if I were to do this again, I'd try something else, because it would be fun. It would be fun to try something else. In terms of artists, there's so many. Look, the story with Alex Ross. That's, to me, that's kind of in its own way as good as it gets. I don't know. I loved what Frank Quitely did for those 3 issues of Batman and Robin.
Right.
Amazing. I think Darwin Cook is one of the best artists working today, and he writes. It's just truly inspiring.
Right.
And God, I don't know, so many. And then I know all these artists that I publish at Pantheon that don't want to do mainstream stuff, but Charles Burns and Chris Ware and I think a total utter dream would be to do an actual Superman story with Chris Ware, but I know that he would never want to do that.
Right.
There's tons of great people working right now.
Excellent. Well, hey, listen, man. It was a pleasure talking to you. I'm honored. I love the book. And I hope it does great, and I hope you get to do another one.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate it. And I would just say, keep your eyes peeled for the actual book, because the galley sort of hints at what it's going to look like, but the way the actual thing looks is really quite amazing. I just got the proofs in yesterday, so
yeah.
Really.
Yeah, no, actually, this is a question for you or Josh. The galley that I got, is it there's some colored pages in there?
Yeah, that's the way the actual thing is going to look.
Okay, so that is actually, it's just going to have like little color shades to it?
Yeah, it's like a lush black and white film that's got touches of color to it.
Okay, all right, all right. I just wanted to make sure that I was on the same page.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I love it. I can't wait to see the whole thing.